All right. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about our recap of 2016 and our predictions for 2017. And today's episode is made possible by freevideoeditor.co. Looking to start doing video, but you don't want to spend high price. You don't want to spend, you don't want to spend high prices. That doesn't make any sense now, does it? Let's do that again. You don't want to spend the high cost. No, that doesn't make sense either, does it? Hey, you know what? It's the end of the year, so I don't care anymore. All right, so if you don't want to pay the high prices for a high-end video editor, then this is your opportunity to be able to download a video editing program completely free, our favorite price, at freevideoeditor.co. And with that and all the goof-ups, let's hit the actual music here.
He's Ray the video guy, yeah, Ray the video guy. His skill is where it's at, even if he's a little fat. He's filled with video expertise and has so much knowledge that you need. His YouTube ninja tricks can make your marketing so sick. He's Ray the video guy, yeah, Ray the video guy.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
All right. It's the radio show about video marketing madness with Ray the Video Guy. And I'm Steve Sleeper on the Earn.show radio network. And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And we've got all kinds of great info on those three social media sites.
I know, because I get lots and lots of notifications every time you post stuff there.
That's right. I put a lot of stuff on the Twitter and Facebook, and of course we put the show on YouTube. So,
hey, that's because there's always such great news coming out of the world of video and marketing that we always need to keep up on all that at all times. So as we get started with today's a very special, fun episode, and I can see people are already jumping in on the Facebook live stream. So if you're listening to this in the future, just be aware that we actually do this live on Facebook as we're recording the podcast, so you can actually join us there as well. And for those of you that are joining us live, please feel free to put your predictions for 2017 in the comments below the video, and maybe even some of your recap of 2016, so we can kind of discuss some of those things. But that's what we're going to do today. We're going to have a little bit of fun, and we're going to talk about some of the things that have happened in 2016 and some of the things we predict for 2017. I wish I had like the Kreskin hat I could wear, to do this part. But
yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, and half the audience probably is going, "Who in the world is Kreskin?" But anyway, with that, let's talk a little bit now. Before we get started, of course, I've got to open up my weekly bottle of root beer, and this is the Hank's Gourmet Root Beer, and this is brewed all the way across the country in Philadelphia. It's considered one of the best in the country. So there you go. We'll tip a bit for everybody listening.
Very cool.
Very good stuff. All right. So with that, let's talk a little bit about what happened in 2016 and some of the great things that have happened, such as the incredible growth of Facebook Live, which, of course, is probably the biggest thing for me in 2016 that's happened. And the reason I say that is I remember back, let's see, we just did Daryl's Vid Summit a couple months ago. And the year before that, which was I believe it was in like October of 2015, we were talking all about Periscope, Meerkat, and how Facebook might be getting into, this live streaming thing. And now a little over a year later, and bam, Meerkat's gone. Periscope you don't hear much about anymore. And Facebook has absolutely taken over the live streaming world, and proof of that is the fact that we're doing this very video show right now live on Facebook as we record it. So we're kind of like the future versions of Howard Stern or Imus by showing the behind the scenes of our radio show as it's being done. So it's a lot of fun to be able to do that. And we couldn't have really done this a couple years ago. We tried it with Hangouts and had a lot of weird issues with that, but this works pretty seamlessly. And so that, to me, that's the biggest thing for 2016 is the huge growth of Facebook Live, which has really taken the video world by storm. I do my podcasts on Facebook Live. I put all my videos on Facebook Live. I do trainings on Facebook Live. I basically do webinars through
Webinars.
Facebook Live. So it's a
And the
very
audience is
powerful
there.
platform. And the
You get a
audience
lot-
is
you-
there.
Yeah. You get a combination of a lot of live views and then not live.
Yeah.
Recorded views as well.
And the great thing about that is, when we're doing a podcast like this, we actually get a lot more, before we would just record a podcast, put it up and hope that people watched it. But now as we're recording it, we get a huge audience that watches as we're doing it live and even interacts with us, which is another thing that, we couldn't really do before. So, and we have done the show on Periscope, but literally we had a phone over my shoulder just kind of shooting the screen and me out the side while we were doing the Periscope, which was a little weird. It worked all right. It worked all right,
It was
but
okay
weird.
when it was a novelty, but then it kind of fizzled out. And, we
was a
tried the
pain in the
Google
neck.
Hangouts too. We did the
Yep.
Google Hangouts. Nothing compared to this.
No, absolutely. This is the real deal. And before I start getting the nasty messages about you're the YouTube guy, why are you downing you? I'm not downing YouTube at all. YouTube has a huge purpose. In fact, this very radio show, after it's done, is put on YouTube as well. And the reason for that, of course, is because while Facebook gets you a lot of notice immediately, YouTube gets you a lot more notice over time. So it actually becomes a more powerful tool even than Facebook Live, a month from now, a week from now, 2 weeks from now, whatever it happens to be. So there's a lot of power in both of those platforms, and you need to be using both. So that's my biggest thing for 2016. Steve, what about you? What's the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things you've found in 2016?
Well, again, it's the Facebook live streaming, and what I've noticed is that live audience is there.
Yes.
For the things that I'm doing now. I still put a lot of things on YouTube, especially when I'm trying to build backlinks, get ranked in Google. YouTube is still very important, and I'm not seeing the live streaming audience there that I think they thought would be there with Hangouts. Is that a good observation on my part, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think the difference is that doing a Facebook Live, you tend to get the, hey, look at this is on audience. Whereas on YouTube, it's much more of a, hey guys, I'm going to be doing a live hangout, at 2:00, come join me. And where would you post that to get people to come over to YouTube for that? Well, you did it on Facebook. So it kind of makes sense that by doing these live things on Facebook, the audience is already there. They get notified immediately. They jump on. And of course, they give you a bigger reach. Now, if you haven't paid attention to that, what that means is, let's say you post just a little piece of text on your Facebook page, and it says, hey guys, just wanted to say hi. Well, that's going to reach a certain number of people. If you got 1,000 people on your page, that might only reach 10 people, maybe 20 people. And it's probably not going to get a lot of interaction. Well, the minute that you do a Facebook Live on those pages, boom, that interaction goes way up because YouTube makes sure that live video shows up in more of their timelines. So instead of a reach of 10 to 20, you might get a reach of 20 to 50. And that's going to get a lot more people involved and a lot more people talking about all the things that are going on. And so it's just a very effective platform for that. Now, I have had people tell me that they're starting to use YouTube Live a little more and that they're getting instant audiences. So there are people getting notified right away, and there are people taking action and coming to see it. So it is happening there. And, I don't want to discount that because, quite frankly, overall, YouTube Live is a better platform. As far as quality and things like that, it can potentially be a much better platform. Facebook is still a little bit limited in the quality of the video, things like that. But it is a very good platform, gets a lot of attention, and we get a lot of live listeners who jump on just because it is a Facebook Live. So we got to love that for it. So that's the big thing for 2016 for me.
And the thing that I've noticed is in just tracking this program, Video Marketing Madness, we'll get a couple hundred views on Facebook, and the podcast between Blog Talk Radio and Earn.show will get about the same, maybe 250, and YouTube will get about 50. In short order, because once it gets to be about a month old, I'm not tracking it anymore on YouTube. So that tells you something. That first of all, you've got a large audience on Facebook. or decent audience on Facebook, and but it's equaling almost all our other platforms.
Yes, absolutely, and I think it's gonna grow even more. And one of the things that, and again, now we're starting to talk into the future here, but I'll mention it quickly, is Facebook has been threatening, and I say threatening because they've said it for a while and haven't done it yet. I kind of expected it to happen during the summer. Is they're talking about adding what they call waiting rooms. And that is going to be huge for people doing webinar-like deals on there, and for things like this program where you can actually go and let people know, hey, at 2 o'clock, we're going to be doing this. Here's where to go. They can go there and they can wait for the program to start. Now, there are some third-party softwares that are starting to do that. There was one that was released the other day that actually kind of does that for you, which is kind of cool. But Facebook should be adding that. It's called waiting rooms. We don't know when they're going to do it, but hopefully they do it sooner than later because it would be a big help. So there we go. All right. So my next exciting thing for 2016 is the advent of, we're just going to say the Mevo camera. And if you don't know what the Mevo camera is, the Mevo, I've actually got one over here. I should have taken it down so I could show it to you. The Mevo camera is a Facebook Live camera. And you can use it just like you would a studio camera. You put it on, I've got it on a tripod pointing at my green screen. You can use it as a traditional camera. You don't have to do it for Facebook, but it allows you to stream directly to Facebook through your phone. So it connects to your phone and your phone streams out to Facebook. And it allows you to do things like zoom in on people, take different shots. And it does this, it kind of fakes it. So what it does is it takes one giant image of what's going on and then it zooms in on different pieces. And if you zoom in on this guy and then you can switch over and zoom in on this guy and it looks like you're switching back and forth between them for interviews. So it's a very, very cool camera. I picked it up a couple months ago. I've used it just to shoot things regardless of Facebook Live, but we've done some tests with Facebook Live as well, and it's very, very cool stuff. So we really like that particular camera, the Mevo, and that's the first of them to really jump in and start to go directly to Facebook. So that's another one that I really am excited about from 2016, and that might be more of a 2017 thing as well, just because that's going to grow. So
I've seen Weather Nation, which is a Weather Channel wannabe, I guess, competitor. They use that in the field.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah. And they even I read a blog where they talked about they're using it, and it's pretty cool how they're using it. It's pretty nice.
And I know the advent of Facebook Live, they're actually starting to use it in live sporting events. They're not necessarily the Mevo, but just Facebook Live, where they're doing from the sidelines sort of deal. And a lot of different companies are doing that. I know I was reading an article the other day about how the WWF, those guys are actually streaming live some of the matches directly to Facebook now as well. And that they're doing that. And I believe the UFC does that as well, that you can get those on Facebook Live. So there's a lot of people jumping in on that. So you can see, again, starting to jump into 2017 a little too soon here. Let's finish our 2016 and then we'll get into that.
But for niche kind of stuff, it is good. And Weather Nation has said that that's given them a competitive advantage on Weather Channel.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, and now another thing for 2016 that was a big advance, and again, this one will be much more going into 2017, I think, than even 2016, and that is 360 VR video. And boy, I'll tell you, this has changed. Back years ago, of course, they had VR still photos for things like real estate, and they were using them for this and that, but they were kind of a mess. They weren't very good. They were distorted. Well, now we're starting to see that technology change. And in 2016, we saw a number of cameras come out that allowed you to do 360-degree video, and then the videos allowed you to move around and kind of see what was going on. The advent of an inexpensive one that does full 360, which was the Kodak camera, and of course I can't think of the name of the actual camera off the top of my head right now, but I believe it was Kodak, one of the companies. And they created a neat one. It's just a little stick. It's about that big. It's got 2 lenses on it, and it does full 360. And, of course, GoPro has come out with their own little things that actually take multiple GoPros and do a really nice 360. So there's a lot of that going on. It's gotten big on YouTube, and Facebook jumped in as well. You can now do the 360 videos on Facebook. So if you see any of those, you can actually watch the videos and move around and all that kind of fun stuff. So that's the other thing that really started to take off in 2016 is the 360 video. And, it's still right now, I think it's still in its infancy enough that I haven't really bought any 360 gear yet. And the reason is because it keeps changing. I don't think the gear is quite where it should be. Some of those cameras are too low res for what they're trying to do. And the ones that aren't low res are extremely expensive, and I wouldn't use it enough to justify the price. I know I've got a few GoPros, but I'd have to buy a couple more to create that rig. And the people that I've talked to said it's an absolute nightmare to edit the videos together. And, so it's not quite there yet, but it certainly saw its advent in 2016, and I think it's going to be very big going forward. And, Samsung has really kind of taken the lead. Fortunately, people are not having their phones blow up in their face while they're doing VR yet, but, they have really jumped into that very heavily. And so that's a good thing, and we hope that they continue to do that. And, I got to speak to a content provider who was talking about sports and how they're starting to, and I believe it was with the Golden State Warriors. They were actually shooting 360 video at the Golden State Warriors games, and certain people could actually watch as if they're in the stands watching a live basketball game, and they can look around, and they can put on the goggles and they can look around and see the fans behind them, see the what's going on in the game, watch what they want. So I think in sports this is going to be massive. I think it's going to be a huge thing in sports. So that's my other exciting thing from 2016 is the advent of 360 degree video, and I think that's going to grow massively. So any other favorites from 2016?
No, you're more into that kind of stuff than I am. I do the Facebook and the YouTube thing. Now
Nice.
you went to Vid Summit, so you probably got a whole list of stuff for 2017, don't you?
Well, you would think so, but I actually only got to visit and stop by, so I didn't really get to stay this year because I had to go out of the country to escape. To vacation and escape the law. But no, so I didn't get to see a lot of it yet, and I should be getting the recordings and go back through it at some point. But yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of great predictions. So
and the law won.
That's right, as they usually do. So let's talk a little bit about 2017 before we end our last show of the year, because I think there is a lot of great things in store for us in 2017. And the first one I want to talk about is one we already mentioned. In fact, a lot of these are going to be ones we already mentioned, and that is Facebook Live. The reason I bring that up again is not so much that Facebook Live itself will change, which it may. I think it's fantastic right now, but the advent of third-party additions to Facebook Live, I think, is going to be huge. Now
look at this one we're using right now.
Yeah, look at this one right now. We're using something brand new today, as a matter of fact. We're using a program called Mimo Live, which I've talked about before, and this is what allows us to do all of the graphics around us and the ticker below us and the titling and all of that kind of stuff and the animations and play the music. And it's a tremendous program for Facebook Live. It also works with YouTube Live. It also works with a bunch of the other live streaming companies. And one exciting thing is it's actually going to be working. Well, we'll talk about that. I'll hold off on that part. We'll talk about that in a minute. But one of the things that they just added the other day is what they call Mimo Call. And that's how Steve and I are actually doing this episode now. We usually use Skype and bring Steve in on Skype and try and fit him into the picture there. And, that works pretty well. But, of course, Skype has its issues. Well, they've released Mimo Live, which is their own version of kind of a Skype-like or Hangouts-like program, but of course it's not going to have all the bandwidth use from hundreds and thousands of people using it all at the same time. So it records a very clear picture. It does some great audio, and I did see a little bit of dropout a little while ago. Steve started to get a little fuzzy for a minute, but in all of our testings, it's been very good.
I was actually physically getting fuzzy.
Oh, see, that's what. Yeah, you were digitizing yourself, and so that's what happens sometimes. But no, it's a great little program. It's much easier to use. So literally, right from our console here, I just send Steve a little link, and he logs in, and boom, we got his picture, we got his sound, and we're ready to go. We don't have to deal with Skype. We don't have to deal with Hangouts, and that's a big advantage. And of course, the program directly goes to Facebook Live. So literally, all I have to do is tell it the title and give it a little description. I click one button and boom, it goes straight out to Facebook Live, and we don't have to do anything else. So it's a very cool program for that. And I see a lot more things coming with Facebook Live. Recently, we saw a software that allowed you to, in real time, show the all the different likes. So they get the thumbs up and they get the smiley face and the crying and all that, and it would actually create a little chart on the screen live in your video and tell you how many people are clicking each one as it happened. And you may have seen during the election there was the who are you voting for, Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, and it would show you live in real time based on whether you did thumbs up or heart, which one was winning. And it was a very, very popular, very cool thing. I thought it was a trick at first, but no, it's an actual new technology that allows you to interface with that and create those types of videos. And I see a lot more of that coming. If any of you have ever used, and I assume they pronounce this Masquerade. It's a program for iOS, might be for Android as well, but it's MSQRD, and I assume that's supposed to pronounce Masquerade. And what that allows you to do is it allows you, from this app that's not a Facebook app, stream directly to Facebook and put little cartoons on your face and make you look like a witch or a bear, or, and all that other kind of cool stuff. And while all the little dress-up things are neat, where you can shoot lasers out of your eyes or whatever, what I found most fascinating about that is the fact that from their app, they're able to stream directly to Facebook Live. And that's the type of things that I see coming in the future, is apps that stream directly to Facebook Live. So you may see some of the softwares that we use now, Camtasia or ScreenFlow, maybe they will, right out of there, go directly to Facebook Live. Now that's, kind of a minor prediction there. It's not a one that's set in stone, but I do see programs starting to do that a lot more often. And I can see, the type of stuff that we're doing here being a lot easier, and people doing it right from their phones and being able to add graphics and things like that, or their iPads. And so I think that's one of the big predictions, is the third-party additions to Facebook Live. Now, the other thing, of course, is what we talked about earlier, Facebook adding things like waiting rooms so that we can actually tell people beforehand where to go, and just make it much easier for doing those types of things. So that's my big prediction with Facebook Live. Steve, do you have a prediction?
No.
All right. Well, there you go. And folks, anybody live, please feel free. Post in there what you think your predictions are. We'd love to see that, whether you're watching this live or later.
What you said.
We definitely want to hear, what you think. What do you think is going to happen in 2017? So my next prediction is, of course, and this is the prediction I make most years, and that is that the Patriots will win the Super Bowl.
And the Bears won't.
Yeah, and the Bears won't. So that's our Steve and my prediction on football. So there we go. Now, do I really think that? Maybe not. I think Patriots have a few people injured right now, so may not make it that far. But we'll see. You never know. They've still got a pretty good team, and they seem to thrive even when certain people are down. And so we'll see how that turns out. But
Ray always likes to ask me questions I don't have answers to.
Yes.
He thinks it's funny. I think you will see, though, seriously, the proliferation of news outlets using Facebook Live. And
absolutely. And that's one of the big things that we've seen. CNN, Fox News, NBC, ABC. During the elections, I would see in my stream all the time, Facebook Live, boop, and they were doing live press conferences. They were doing live reports. I see that being a big thing. The other thing that I predict for the next year, and maybe this is an easy one to predict, is a lot more tools for your website that interface with things like Facebook Live, so that you can put your Facebook Live videos on your website and stuff like that. And I know that even next week there's a new video player that's coming that you can put on your website and show Facebook videos and whatnot. I'm not sure yet. I haven't really tested it yet, but I don't know if it actually shows it live or if it just shows the replays. But No offense, Facebook, your embedding for videos is absolutely terrible. So I'm glad to see that there are new video players coming that are going to allow you to put Facebook videos much more easily onto your website. So that's one of the things I see coming.
Hey, did you know, this is something that happened, I don't know if it was 2016 or not, but if you're editing long videos in the YouTube video editor, eventually they're going to take that video editor away from you.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. That wouldn't surprise me.
We have a daily 2-hour live hangout we do, and sometimes if I forgot to turn it off at the end, I would just edit it out. They took that away from me. So
wow,
and that didn't surprise me. Yeah, but I didn't know they would do. I did not know that until they did it.
Who knows? I've never really played with it too much, so I can't really say for sure. But
I know something you don't.
That's right.
Which isn't much.
So next prediction.
It took a year. It took a year for me to know something Ray didn't know.
Absolutely. So the next big prediction is, and this has once again to do with something we already talked about, the massive growth of 360-degree video, VR video. And I think that, the big growth isn't necessarily going to be hardware related, although we'll see, some of these cameras start to do higher resolution videos, which is what they really need. Because the biggest problem we have now is a lot of people buy these 360 cameras and they say on them, they're 4K, or they're most of them say that they're HD, 1920 by 1080. Well, the problem is you're only seeing a small portion of that in each part of the viewing area as you move around. So when your entire world that you've created is 1920 by 1080, well, your actual resolution of what you're seeing at any one time is actually very low. And I see that being the biggest thing they're going to update this year is a lot of these cameras, even these cheaper ones, you're going to see them explode in the actual resolution to the point where each part you're looking at will be high definition versus now where the whole thing is high def, but the part you're looking at is low definition. So I see that being one of the big things hardware-wise that's going to change. And the other one is a huge advance in the amount of content that people are putting out. Sporting events, just entertainment value alone, documentary type stuff. You're going to see a lot more 360 things for that. And I also see this as being a big growth area for things like wedding videos. I think that could be huge there. Imagine, being able to relive your wedding, not just focused on the bride and groom there, but you're watching that and you can look to your right and to your left and see the relatives and kind of really see what's going on besides what the photographer normally would be focusing on. And I think those are some of the areas that are really going to see some growth. You're going to see a lot more people using content, NASCAR events, NBA events, WWF events, UFC events, all those types of things are going to start to use these 360. That's my big prediction for 2017 there is the content growth is going to be massive. And you're going to see a lot more sales of the goggles. You're going to see a lot more people buying those goggles and things. And you may see a lot of advances there as well. So I think that's another big one. And the next one that I want to talk about is going to be kind of a surprise to people. And that is the reemergence of different sites besides Facebook doing live. And I think Periscope is going to be the one that jumps into this and makes a big splash. And the reason I say that is because they just opened up their APIs. So literally, our show right now that we're doing, we can actually broadcast what we're seeing here, all of this stuff, to Periscope now. And that just started the other day, where we're actually able to do that. So we could broadcast this very show live to Periscope if we wanted to now. So that's an exciting thing. Now, it's still going to go away after a certain amount of time and whatnot. So there is still that limitation. But we will be able to do that. And the other one is the growth of live video on... Anyone? Steve, you want to make a guess what the next one is?
YouTube?
Yeah, well, that's one we're going to talk about in a minute, but I'm talking about something new. Instagram, you got it. Instagram just added their live video platform on there. So when you're doing one of those Instagram stories, you can actually do live video now. I'm not sure. I haven't seen whether it's still 30 seconds like a video, but I do know that when you do it, it goes away right afterwards. So people watch it live and then it's gone. So there's no staying power to it, but they do have that built into there. The next one is a big growth in YouTube Live. I have a feeling they are going to really jump in on this whole live video thing and give it that YouTube experience, that YouTube audience, and some of the more advanced technologies. And if they do, that could be huge because right now, the YouTube Live platform is actually a better platform than the Facebook Live platform. Higher resolution, you can do more things with it. The problem is that it's not easy to do and it doesn't have the instant audience that Facebook Live does. And it's not something that everybody's just going to jump in and do. Right now you can't just, grab your phone and do it like you can with Facebook Live. Well, and that's not totally true either, but because there is Wirecast for phones and things like that, but it's not as simple and integrated as the Facebook Live is. But I see them coming out with a much, much easier experience, a more user-friendly experience, and one for a consumer. Right now, YouTube Live is much more of a high-end professional live system, and which makes it difficult and not worth dealing with in a lot of ways.
And you're a iOS guy. Something just showed up on my Android the other day in YouTube that looks like it's a live button where I can go live on my YouTube channel.
And it may have, because I know they were planning on adding that, so I'll have to check it out. It may have already happened, but I know that was one of the plans they had, was to really make that easier to do. So,
yeah, when I'm sitting around in the evening not doing anything, I'll try that.
And another prediction for 2017, I see YouTube making a lot of changes to their platform in allowing people to be more interactive, a much more social experience. When people talk about social media, sometimes they mention YouTube, a lot of times they don't mention YouTube, but in reality, it is kind of a social media platform, and I think that they're going to start to move into the social media portion of that and really start to to allow more social media type aspects to the platform. And I also see them working much harder on the high end. And what I mean by that is really working with high-end creators, production companies, things like that, to do much more high-end stuff on YouTube, because I think that's where they really shine, is in their video advertising, their high-end video stuff, and really just slowly starting to replace television. And I really see between YouTube, Netflix, and Hulu, I think they're going to really start to have a major impact on the television networks.
Well, you see some of the videos out there with 10 million views easily.
I mean, that's nothing these days.
I think, it's already replaced television in many respects. I think there's a lot of people out there that almost watch it like television, with the difference it's on demand.
Well, and honestly, I couldn't tell you the last time I watched my kids watch TV. They don't care. They'd rather grab their iPad and watch a YouTube video, or maybe Hulu or Netflix. So I see those being the areas that are going to grow the most. And this year, I think, is going to be the year where the major networks, cable and broadcast, are going to start to move into that digital world. Whether they're charging or whether it's free, you're going to start seeing, and you already are seeing this, different networks that come out with their own apps. And I think they're going to start to really improve those apps and almost as a replacement to broadcast television. And, everything's going to be on demand. Yes, you'll still have, Tuesday at this time, such and such show is going to be live, or coming out for the first time. So you're still going to have that schedule, but I think everything's going to start moving towards being on demand at all times. And, I see that being something necessary, because with television, you see a lot of issues, even with Hulu. Hulu has worked so hard with these networks to bring their shows to a streaming audience. And the problem is that the networks are so restrictive, and you can only show the last 4 episodes, and then the fourth one's going to disappear when the next one comes. And I don't see how that's very useful in a lot of ways. I mean, yes, if you're already watching the show, it doesn't make any difference. You've already seen it. But the problem is, how do you grow an audience for a new television show when the only ones on demand are episodes 5, 6, 7, and 8. Well, I haven't seen 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
And so I see that being a big change. I think their stranglehold is going to start to loosen. They're going to work more with the Netflix, the Hulus, the Apples of the world to start bringing those things out, Roku and whatnot. And I see that being a big deal. I think you're going to see more of companies like Apple and maybe even Roku making their own content, which, obviously Netflix and Hulu have done, Amazon has done. So I see that being a big thing in the video entertainment area. And I think for most of us as smaller producers, as smaller business people, I think we're going to see a much greater opportunity to start advertising to our audiences on major platforms. So imagine being able to advertise, whatever product you have on The Big Bang Theory. I think, and maybe that'll take a while and the prices will probably be weird and everything, at least at first, and they'll get crazy and they'll come down. But I have a feeling we're going to start to see where average Joes will be able to advertise on major network programming that gets millions of views. And I think that's going to be one of the big things that are coming as well. That may not be 2017, but I see that being a growth area for us. So there you go.
Very cool. And some networks are already putting all their stuff out there on Roku, History Channel. You can go back and watch American Pickers from the beginning, from 8 years ago, whenever they started. So some of them are already doing it.
Oh, yeah. My sister every once in a while sends me a message. Oh, hey, have you seen this show yet? I just started watching this, and she's going through 3 seasons of it. And we saw, with Netflix, we just saw a couple of really big Netflix-only television programs that did extremely well. One was, what was it called? Stranger Things, which was huge. We also saw the documentary, what was the name of the one? Making a Killer or whatever they call it there.
Yeah,
which was absolutely massive. I mean, it was these were numbers that were comparing to television programs and broadcast TV. And the latest one is, Black Mirror has become very popular, and, we've seen a lot of growth there. So I think custom content is going to be a big thing because we're already seeing guys like, and guys like PewDiePie, which I always laugh whenever I have to say that name, but they've got bigger audiences than network television shows do, top network shows. The Big Bang Theory is the #1 comedy on TV, gets 18 million viewers. Well, PewDiePie puts out a video and he gets, 30 million viewers. So I think we're going to see a lot more of those guys getting a lot more advertising money because right now they're just not getting what they deserve. They're not making the type of advertising revenue that they really should be. And I also think for 2017, I think podcasting is going to really start to grow. This past year, podcasting obviously has been around for a number of years. There's been a number of people, but this past year, I've noticed a huge growth in the number of people doing podcasts, higher end people. People that normally would have a radio show are doing podcasts and they're getting millions of views. And, so I see that really starting to grow this year. I think we're going to see a lot more people jumping into higher end podcasting. And, that's good for everybody. I think it's a great medium, and I see that being a big growth potential as well. So there you go. That's my predictions for 2017.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Very cool. Yeah.
Indeed.
Do you have a Mindset Matters?
Well, of course I do. And so with that, let me hit the little Mindset Matters bumper.
Oh, that'll work here, won't it?
Yes.
Mindset Matters.
Yes.
You actually knocked us off the air one time when you...
I know. Well, we wait so long to do that and everything, and then it's on a hard drive, and so the hard drive has to spin up from being, from being quiet there. So maybe I need to move it to a different hard drive.
I'm used to cart machines. That's how old I am. I'm an old radio guy,
All right.
Analog.
So, all right. So today's Mindset Matters. Well, what we're going to talk about is something simple, and we just mentioned it a little bit, and that is podcasting. And we're going to talk about it in general here because normally, we've talked about some podcasts here and there, the Tony Robbins podcast, but today I want to just talk about podcasting in general because it is such a wealth of information and entertainment, and it's available to anybody completely free. And believe me when I tell you, you can learn a whole bunch by jumping onto some of these podcasts, whether it's Internet Business Mastery or the Pat Flynn, he's got a couple of shows, the Tony Robbins podcast, Michael Hyatt has a podcast. You've got entertainment. You've got guys like, from the sports world, trying to think of his name, one of the basketball players just came out with one the other day. I believe Shaq has one as well.
Shaq has one.
Yeah, Chael Sonnen's got one. And I mean, just all these different guys, these entertaining people, tons of podcasts out there for entertainment, for learning. And you can even, some of these podcasts are, there's the dogs, it's that time of day again.
Yeah.
Some of those podcasts literally will teach you things that normally you would be buying high-end courses for, and they'll just take you right through and teach you these things. So it's a wealth of information. And so that's why I want to recommend that for 2017, as the dogs go absolutely mental, this is that time of day when the doorbell rings because somebody's dropping off 15 Amazon boxes. But this is the year you need to get into podcasting, or at least listening to podcasts. So go into your, if you got iOS, you got Android, download your favorite app for podcasts. Pull up the podcasts that fit what you want to learn and start jumping into them, because it's going to only help you. It's going to entertain you. It's going to keep you motivated, and you should have a lot of fun. And Tim Judge just says, "Who let the dogs out?" Yeah, no kidding, right? That should be our theme song for every time we reach about 11:30. We should just play that song. In fact, we're going to put that in there, I think. We might get in trouble, but every time the dogs stop barking, we're just going to hit
Who let the dogs out? Yeah, I'm going to see where my dogs are and just bring them in and ask them to speak.
There we go. And Tim also says, what is higher end podcasting? By higher end podcasting, I just mean, for instance, in this podcast, Steve and I just said, hey, let's make a podcast. We just went out and did it. But if you look,
there's mine.
There we go.
My dog?
I did. I heard that. Higher end podcasting, you can see some of these networks that have, guys like Charles Barkley. They've got Chael Sonnen. They've got Steve Austin. They've got, trying to think of some of the other ones. Shaq.
Podcast One. Go head over to Podcast One.
In fact, that's probably the biggest one. All the celebrities, sports, and things. So they're getting paid literally, to actually do the podcast. They're getting a paycheck for doing podcasting and whatnot. So I think that's where we're going to see where podcasting becomes a lot more like, network television.
Radio.
Or radio. So there we go.
Network radio. Yeah.
All right. So with that, we have come to the end of our 2016 adventure and our 2017 prediction adventure. And so I want to first off say thank you to everybody that's watched throughout the entire year. And we look forward to next year where we're going to do bigger and better things. Technology is going to grow and we'll be able to do some really cool stuff. So I thank you all for listening. And of course, I hope you have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a Happy New Year, or whatever it is that you choose. Festivus. Did they say Happy Festivus? Merry Festivus?
For the rest of us.
Yes. So if you celebrate Festivus, get out that poll and remember us as you swing around and air your grievances. And until next year, this is Ray the Video Guy for Steve Sleeper. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and all that other fun stuff. See you guys.